we're done.
Fireworks.
Yes. Thanks for joining us as in this explosive video. Thank you for joining us as we examine the Doctor Who TV series and ask the question, who killed Doctor Who, otherwise known as...
An author unveiling an autopsy.
Yeah. I think that's it. So you may not be familiar with the Doctor Who series. It may mean nothing to you, but we're going to unveil some things here and take a closer look at how this iconic series transformed from something that looked like it was good, even educational, to something that has just been totally the opposite. My name is John Newton, science fiction author, and I'm joined today by...
Eric from Your Brother in Christ.
Otherwise known as the man in the fez, because fezzes are cool. So I'm a historical science fiction author, and this is one of the reasons why this series is one of the things that heavily influenced me in my writing. And I'll pull out some things later as we go into this and see why. And it's really sad then, at least from those who have followed this series in the past. What has really happened to this? We're going to pull back the covers a little bit and take a closer look at it. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to this channel. It costs you nothing. And it really helps us out tremendously. And we're right on the edge of making 1,000 subscribers. And so I'm not sure the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, we'll push it over. And maybe even tonight we'll push that over. So we'll keep our eye on that. See how that's going. On November 23rd, 1963, Doctor Who, the longest running sci-fi TV series, debuted and became the most successful in terms of its overall global influence and spin-offs on the BBC. The show's creators initially envisioned it as an educational sci-fi series aimed at families. It's no longer that case.
Nope.
No.
Well, no, it actually is still aimed at families.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, they're still targeting kids.
Yeah, that's true.
They're just targeting kids in a whole another
way.
Direction.
Yeah, I think the original Doctor Who would be churning in his grave right now. So it's the show's early format alternated between historical episodes set in Earth's past and futuristic or alien-themed stories to encourage both curiosity and imagination. And if you look at the original Doctor, remember this is 1963, okay? So we're not talking CGI or cutting edge effects or anything like that on here. We get slower paced, more methodical shows, but it hit the audience.
Yeah, very fascinating.
A meeting between you could be arranged.
My dear lady, I should be so grateful. Doctor. Oh, my dear Chesterton. This dear lady has promised me to arrange a meeting between myself and the son of the man who built the temple.
Yes. So as you can see, sort of a professorial type of character there.
Very, very convenient. Everyone spoke English. Very, very convenient.
Yes, that's true. The series followed a mysterious time-traveling alien known as the Doctor, a member of a race called Time Lords who travels through time and space in a ship called the TARDIS, which stood for time and relative dimension in space. I think they kind of added that later. I'm not sure if it really originally came out as an acronym at the beginning.
It sounds like something they made up later.
It could have been. The TARDIS famously appears as a blue British police box. You couldn't tell that in the original black and white. And it's bigger on the inside than on the outside. Some of these things that came as sort of like a catchphrase, I think it was just because that's what the props or what was available at the time. And so they kind of forced it that way to make it happen. You know,
sort of like teleporting in the old Star Trek.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the shuttles ready on the first when they made the first episode.
Is that what the?
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
That's why how teleporting happened, because they had to get them to the planet, except they didn't have the shuttles ready. So they went ahead and had teleporting. No explanation.
No
explanation
works
in the first episode, but
well, you kind of fill that in as you go. And you know what? As far as writing goes, I don't know, if you're an author, you build up as much as the story, you do the story building as much as you can, but there's a lot of things that you don't know that you're going to need, and you can spend countless hours working on something, a language or a people group or whatever, that never get used. And when you're reading a book that has a lot of world building in it, like science fiction or fantasy, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg of all the other stories that are, if they develop their world well. Like Tolkien, look at all the or Frank Herbert with Dune, how much he had built up. So, but a lot of those times you don't know you're going to need something until you run into a corner and say, well, what am I going to do now? So now you got to go off to the side and build up a little bit more. And that fills out over time, I think, too. You see this with series all the time. Right? Stargate, I think, would be another example of that. So the Doctor is accompanied by various human companions, the first being Susan Foreman, his granddaughter, which ends up being retconned in later.
There's a lot of retconning coming up.
And he also
don't, ladies and gentlemen, don't identify with any of these characters because they just get all rewritten.
That's right. The storyline, what they build up as their world building. Unfortunately, that's what happens a lot with these newer versions of these shows. It's like, forget all that you know in the past. We're starting from scratch on this, and it's a lot of times it's counter to what it was originally.
Force
right?
healing.
Force healing.
And it gets Skywalker's. What? How long has this been a thing? I could have done that to begin with my mom.
I didn't know this. And Anakin, he's got no legs, right? And he's all burning. It's like, I could force you.
Well, the whole thing is like he goes evil because his mom dies, and he has the moment and it's like, what? You guys could have healed him with the Force. Why didn't you just do that? That was a thing? What did I get you?
Yeah, you got to be careful in writing. If you're going to be good at writing, you're going to have a book or a log that you're going to try to keep to, and if you got to break a rule to make it fit a story has to happen a certain way, so you have to break a rule. You better come up with a good reason why you can break that rule.
Well, yeah.
Like no transportation in warp. You can't transport it while at warp. Things like that. It's like, okay, now we're going to break into the next episode. I'm not going to hang on to a word you guys say if you keep on breaking what you originally set up. You're breaking me out of your world. You created this world and then you're throwing it away. It's not very good.
Yeah, they did so bad with that because that just undid all the dramatic scenes from all the previous ones. And it's like, oh, you mean lightsaber injuries? You could just force heal? Qui-Gon, someone forgot something.
Yeah, didn't tell him. So here we have the same thing is happening in Doctor Who. So I want to build up this little bit at the beginning. This is 1963. This thing's been running for decades, very, very long. And so where have we gone in that process? Remember how a few weeks ago, we were looking at the 60s version of Medieval Knights in El Cid versus the 2005 version of Medieval Knights in what was that? Kingdom of Heaven. So this is in a similar way where we're looking in a series. It runs long enough so you can see what the change is over time. So
I think some of the things are pretty telling about our culture and where we're heading.
Yes, definitely. So, and I see some things in chat. I want to get to you guys in here in just a second, but I want to say first, lay this foundation. You got the Doctor who's doing his travels, and he brings a human companion usually with him. The first one being his granddaughter, Susan Foreman, and then 2 school teachers came with him, Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright. Now, here's the deal. Remember this, who he brings with him, family and teachers. That's the focus of what this is.
Education. Right? As well as family focus.
Right. Family focus and education.
Focus and education.
Now, it's not to say that a series can't change over time and stuff like that, but to do a complete 180 on it and then expect your fan base to grow afterwards, you might be surprised that you just crushed any possibility of that happening. And we've seen that time and time again with other series. So the first few years introduced now iconic elements in the franchise, notably early stories. Now, before we get to that, I'm going to check the
I see Jack Ray and Thomas Hall.
Wait, what happened to the... There we go. Their icons. Okay. So Thomas Hall said, since we've been talking about war lately, seems already to ceasefire, couldn't ask for a better outcome. Is there news here that I'm not aware of?
Don't know.
Since there's been talk about war recently, seems we already have a ceasefire.
I know Trump stepped in and dropped some bombs.
Well, I know that was over the weekend, but I'm not sure there's something that happened. So
Don't know. Thomas Hall, fill us in.
Yeah, so we're gonna move right along with Doctor Who and talk about the sublime while the radical is going on around us. Stargate, I guess, was another example of how that would have changed over time.
Yeah, and there were some messages in there that got really bad.
Yeah, there was some good. Originally, they got to the Ori. There was another thing, and we did do a review on Stargates. See if I put that up there. Tom Baker, Doctor Who. Period. Jack, are you showing your age, buddy? Are you showing? I have no idea how old you are. Or if Jack's a woman's name, it could be a woman. Use my proper pronouns. So, Jack, I'm assuming you're a guy. And I'm also assuming that that's how I got hooked on Doctor Who way back when. And I didn't bring my sonic screwdriver. I usually have my sonic screwdriver.
That would have been a good one.
I was at a book signing this last weekend. I brought it. I tell you, that's a really great device. I'm not signing things with a sonic screwdriver.
That would be cool.
I would.
There needs to be a sonic screwdriver pen.
That'd be,
like multi-tool.
And whenever you press on it,
it needs to be a multi-tool too.
Yeah.
So you got like you can sign with it, and then you got like you press a button, and then it's like a screwdriver, actual screwdriver, and then press another button, and it's a drill. Start drilling people's teeth. Like, here you go. Here's a dentist.
I'll just show that another time. I usually have it up on the shelf back there.
That'd be hilarious.
But yeah, he was. I think it was PBS. He was on PBS. And this is back when you had 3 channels. And it was really campy and stupid, and all sorts of things were happening with it that you look at and say, this is really low quality. But there was something about it that drew people into it. So that would make sense. And see what else he has on here. As far as Star Wars lore, I did Star Wars RPG in the 1990s with West End Games D6 system.
Interesting. I'm assuming it's a board game. He's referring to
RPG. I don't know if you could do an RPG. It's got to be like what was that one that came out? Knights of the Old Republic.
Knights of the Old Republic. That was really good. That was solid.
They did the lore in that
lore.
One. Yeah,
that was some seriously good lore with that.
It's a good backstory.
It was a lot of fan influence for that.
Yeah, and they loved it, and it sold well. Right? They're not stepping on. I need to invert their expectations. I need to totally step on them. No, don't do that, please. I watched a couple ESP with David Tennant, a couple with alien-looking guy who I liked. Would be the sort of things I can get into. Yeah, they had. Okay, so when they do, we're going to get to the reboot here in a bit, and some of the good things about that.
That's where I got introduced to it.
Yeah, you got.
I'm not that old.
I thought you were like 57 or something like
57 that. Yet, unless you're rounding up.
The nearer century. So, yeah,
that's not how
Tom Baker. He was around for quite a while. We're going to look at the different doctors here in a minute, but he was around for quite a while, and he really voiced it. He's still alive, I think, in France.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
And they showed him recently, like the reboot one with him coming. I mean, it looks like he's really aged, but he's still the same character. They're coming through. So check some of these. Glad I didn't now.
Oh, glad you didn't get involved in it. I'm assuming.
Yeah, but you know what? There's still reruns.
Was good for a while.
The reboot, there's some good ones. Still campy. But there's some good characters, and it's something.
It gets funny for a while.
Escapism, something to enjoy. I was the youngest of my siblings, so I saw shows that they were watching. That would make sense. And Eric needs hookah and a tiny cup of Turkish coffee.
I go with the Turkish coffee, sure.
You want to tell people why you're wearing a fez?
Because fezzes are cool.
Fezzes are cool.
To Dr.
Okay.
Who.
Yeah, there was one particular doctor. They go through several iterations of these doctors, and there's a reason for it. But because actors need to move away, they move on or whatever, and then the last doctor regenerates, and now he's the new doctor, and he's the same guy.
In other words, the other guy wanted to quit, so we had to get a replacement, and we didn't want to tell you that.
That's right. But yeah, one of them brought it. Wasn't David Tennant? It was one after David Tennant. Matt. Oh, I forget his last name. We'll hit him a bit, but I believe he was the Fez guy, right? And the bow tie. Bow ties are cool. So we're sporting that today.
He was silly. He was one of the sillier ones.
He was.
God bless you. God bless you too, brother.
Yes, amen. Yeah, and we are doing something, get away from some of the deeper theology stuff, but it is a question of looking at.
Oh no, there's still something.
It is. We I don't think we can really get away from not being involved in storytelling. And that means entertainment and trying to influence that, because if we take our hands off that wheel, the enemy grabs that wheel and steers with entertainment goes culture, with culture goes the law. And all of a sudden we're finding ourselves in, I don't know, the land of Sharia or something like that or the land of LGBTQIA plus yada, yada. And we're saying, what happened? We weren't involved. That makes a difference. So on the first few episodes of Doctor Who, you had the Unearthly Child, 1963, a debut episode that introduced the Doctor and the TARDIS, his time-traveling machine. The Daleks, which introduced the Doctor's most famous enemies, his nemesis, genocidal mutant race in armored shells. And a lot of these questions they bring up are questions that we're even dealing with today about AI and about transhumanism and other things like that. Sci-Fi has long been asking those kind of questions ahead of time. This sort of primes the pump so that we're ready to say, okay, how are we going to approach this? Are we looking at a Terminator kind of situation here with Skynet approaching over the horizon, or is there some kind of utopia coming that I for one welcome our cybernetic overlords? Then you have the Aztecs. Now, this was interesting. In 1964, came out with an episode, The Aztecs, a purely historical episode exploring the challenges of the changing past. And that was the episode that we saw the clip for here a few minutes ago. So these are the type of things that came out originally in the first Doctor Who. The series continued with the rotating cast of changing lead actors thanks to the in-universe concept of regeneration. It allowed the Doctor to change his appearance and personality. Unfortunately, the personality, but you can't have the actors all trying to do the same guy because I don't know if that's going to work out well. This clever idea helped keep the show alive for decades and laid the groundwork for its eventual revival. So the show was very, very influential in terms of sci-fi with the different storylines that came out. And it was also influential in my book as well. Take a little sidebar and talk about this for a minute. What happens in the Healing Stone is the first book in a series, and this happens in the past. What happens when time travelers lose their tools? In this case, it's a stone that heals anything, which is a first aid device that was used. I'm not going to tell you because it's a bit of a spoiler, and it would say too much. So an orphan in medieval Spain inherits this thing, and then what happens to him? Eventually, the owners of the Healing Stone come looking for him for a specific reason. And there's something that Francisco, the main character, needs to do, and then that starts this whole series in different times as you go forward in Africa with also a Islamic country, or it's the kingdom, the Empire of Mali, with the princess there, and the Aztec Empire. I'm not going to say there's more that comes after this. So how has Doctor Who influenced this book? He has the TARDIS. In my book, we have time-traveling pods. They can change shape just like the TARDIS used to be able to do, and it got stuck.
It got broken.
It got broken and stuck on a police box, and that's why you see them continuously use that prop and not have to do any special effects back in 1963.
Almost like they didn't really have CGI to go with.
Yeah, it's supposed to work that way, or it's broken. It's not supposed to work that way. One of those two things. So the influence there was pretty deep in my stories with some of the things with Star Wars and so forth. But this story, like so many others, came to an end. And so we also looked at another series that Disney owned. and this was The Acolyte.
Star Wars.
We reviewed this, and just like so many other series, it also died, and we wanted to find out why did The Acolyte end up in the graveyard. It's very similar reasons to what happened here with Doctor Who. Take a look at the chat again.
Sounds fine. Good.
Sounds fine with
Audio.
Oh,
Ask
good.
if what the sound was.
The car TARDIS was an odd one to me. Oh, yeah. They're being able to change shape and the different areas. What was that phone, or was that not on mute?
It was not on mute.
One of the various devices that
Was not
should
on
not be muted and is not. And I'm not going to say whose it was, but we took care of that. So, Doctor Who gained a passionate following despite or even because of its campy props, cheesy storylines, and occasional questionable acting.
Questionable acting.
Why? I mean, you look at some of this stuff.
Because they're cheesy.
Especially
It's
the Tom
all
Baker
dorky.
era. I mean, we're talking about guys that are covered in tinfoil, right?
Hey, they were able to laugh at themselves. They knew it was campy.
They didn't take it too seriously.
And they didn't take it too seriously.
Yes.
Which I think was its saving grace. Because I think it originally started off as very serious. And then they realized this is not going to work.
Well, yeah, some of these things, yes. The storyline questionable and all that stuff, even though you had that, you still had people that would follow and enjoy it. Because why? There was something else there that maybe some of the newer series with high-end graphics, high-end production don't have. And that's the boundless imagination. You're almost depending on the viewer to what do you have left? You have storyline, characterization.
The comedy, I think. Well, I'm
Some
talking about the
comedy.
reboot mostly.
Well, no. We're not to the reboot yet. We're talking about the older stuff. So you had the acting that was there. You had the imagination, and even though the acting was kind of questionable sometimes, the storylines. There was a lot of tension that they dealt with, dilemmas that they had to work through, moral dilemmas, and that I think offered a good foundation for it. Since the early 1960s, the show pushed the limits of what television could do, not push an agenda or deliver the woke message, but what it could do on a shoestring budget. Instead of relying on the flashy effects and focusing on other things like that, it focused on big ideas, time travel, moral dilemmas, and alien civilizations and consequences of power. Viewers were drawn in by the show's central character, the Doctor, a mysterious alien who defeats evil not with weapons, but with wit, compassion, and cleverness. This is sort of like a MacGyver in space in some ways, because MacGyver was popular because he could figure out how to get out of a bad situation with what?
Didn't this come out before MacGyver, though?
It did, long before. Maybe.
Okay, I was just making sure.
But the idea is using
chronological.
your wit for it, is that you can get out of situations like MacGyver with maybe duct tape or WD-40 or who knows, what's ever available there. And the Doctor, even though being this advanced alien, had to figure out how to get through the situation. These situations had. He also had compassion and cleverness. So the compassion part is something that's interesting here. He had mercy on certain evil guys the villains that he came across. Now, this format allowed for endless variety. 1 week, a trip to the ancient Rome. The next to encounter a killer robots on a distant planet. And that's what gave this, the unpredictability, I believe, is what gave this show its strength, because you could be in different places in different situations depending on what would be written the next week. The low budget charm actually made the show more accessible. Fans appreciated the creativity it took to bring epic stories to life using cardboard sets and bubble wrap as monsters. I'm not kidding, man. This was on the line of you and your buddies getting together in your garage, like in high school, and coming together. We're gonna do this video, Dad. Watch this video.
There's some charm of that sort of stuff. There really is.
Yes, there is. And that's why, for many, the charm was the heart of the show. And it wasn't the visuals, but its hopeful tone, its quirky characters, and the idea that one person, no matter how old, can make a difference. In short, Doctor Who earned its place in pop culture history, not by being perfect, by being different and capitalizing on the things that matter. Right?
Right.
So I'm going to take a look at the chat. Just imagine David Wood saying, amateur hour? Amateur hour.
Yeah, it's talking about the phone going off. That's what he's referring to, because, and then he corrects himself.
See, it was all a part of the plan, because we're showing you campiness and poor props and people who forget to turn off their phones and things like that. So, this is the nature of live TV or live video. Yeah, thank you very much, amateur hour. Can't spell. Yes, we understood. So you're part of the show.
Damn, here is a Batman show. Boom.
Yes, it was, but that was in color.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Yes,
those are funny.
And yes, Stargate got that too because of Richard Anderson. There was we got to show it. I got to show that clip. There was, remember the one that it was a blooper.
It was, yes, I know which one you're going.
Okay, yes. Okay, you guys probably know which one I'm talking about. They had a Stargate that was on Earth, because they actually found another Stargate, and it was in Antarctica. Correct me if I'm wrong on this.
That's correct.
And it was stuck under ice, and they were able to, I don't know, what do you call that?
They got stuck
portal into it,
yep,
and suck into it. So it was, the doctor, what was her name? Carter. Sam Carter. She was stuck in there with
Jack O'Neill.
Thank you very much. And he couldn't figure out how to get out there. And somebody flooded their limes. And I think it was her. And she was like chiseling in the ice. And she says, "Help me. I can't believe this. I'm stuck in a glacier with MacGyver." It couldn't get out. So, yeah.
Yep.
Dean Anderson. Yeah, he's a famous character for that. So we have the different doctors then that were rebooted in this series, and take a look at them. Okay, so this is not all the doctors, because they've added a couple more after this.
These are the cool doctors.
Yes, these were the cool doctors.
Old guy in the middle sucks.
Yeah, I started going downhill with him. Campelli. So Peter Campelli. So these, and you can see how I think there's 11, 12, 13. I think there's 13 here. And we have the list of the guys that were there over time. All the way starting from 63 down to 2025, the last Doctor, which it looks like it might be canceled. No, it's not canceled. It's just on pause. We'll see.
Indefinitely forever.
Indefinitely pause.
It's canceled.
Thank goodness. And the question is why? Why was that knocked off the air and further demised?
Needed.
So my question to you guys in the chat, if you're familiar with the Doctor Who series, which one of these guys was your favorite? We already have one for Tom Baker, who is the guy with the scarf, the fourth one from the left.
That was
from the right.
One.
Sorry, fourth one from the right. Yeah, he is.
Out of the older set, I think he would be one of the top, if not the top.
Why would you say one of the top?
That's what I've heard.
Well, okay, so he ran from 74 to 81. He was possibly the line. I don't know, look into that, but he might be the longest running Doctor. I think so, because the other ones before and after, I think they're a lot shorter lived. But he's the one I think that made is on a lot of reruns and made some of the biggest impacts. But Doctor Who went on a hiatus in 1989 due to declining ratings, and also internal BBC politics and the perception that the show had become outdated. Audience had shifted, and the show's once groundbreaking style was seen as old-fashioned, especially when compared to flashier, more cinematic sci-fi emerging from the US. A TV movie in 1996 attempted to relaunch the series, but failed to gain any traction. So now we get more towards your area. You started watching them afterward. Okay. So in 2005, a reboot led by writer producer Russell T Davies, remember that name that comes up later, revived Doctor Who for a new generation. The reboot wasn't just a continuation, it was a reinvention. It kept the lore and continuity, but modernized the tone, pacing, and production values. Now, would that be key? What kind of leading question? Keeping the lore and continuity.
Definitely. Because you keep the original fan base coming back now. The first one in this reboot section was way more serious of a character than we will see.
And Christopher Eccleston, Ninth Doctor.
He was
2005.
He was the Doctor for 1 year.
Yeah, even a little less, actually. He was just
one season.
Yeah, he was on and then it regenerated. So, yeah, you're right. He was a lot more serious with the other ones that came out. So I'm curious to see who, if you guys have watched this at all, who is your favorite Doctor Who in the series? Keeping the lore and continuity. What happens to a series when you drop that?
You drop your fan base.
Well, yeah, and I think you drop this. It's not the same show.
No.
I mean, show by the same name, but if the lore that you built up, the world building in science fiction, if you built that up and it's gone,
not much left to it.
Yeah, you don't have. It's not the same show. It's not the same story. But they modernized the tone, the pacing, and the production values in the 2005 version. So it was like a Tom Baker, but modern Tom Baker.
Modern. Serious.
Yeah.
New energized.
Most importantly, it focused on character-driven storytelling, especially through the eyes of the companion Rose Tyler when they rebooted it with Rose Tyler, making the series more emotionally engaging and accessible to new viewers.
I did very good on story writing.
Yeah, so comment about that. What was your with that particular Doctor Who? What was your favorite part with it, and
I'd
why?
say overall, there would be the story writing, the deep
Okay.
story writing they put into it. They built up to their season finale, and the entire season was just background for the season.
Yeah, so it was one of the first shows that I had seen in that era. So this is early 2000s, where they had. It was basically like a mini series, and they had the individual plots for all the episodes, but there was an overall arc to it, right? They give you hints going through. Bad Wolf.
There's
right?
something there, and you're always wondering, what is that? Why is that there? It seems to be coming up a lot. What's going on there? They gave a little mystery, a little wanting to solve it, and they did deliver on it at the end.
They did. And the continuity was good with that. Now, this is a type of story writing that's done for a lot of series on streaming services, because they know that they're going to be there for the whole time. They can pin it through, and they have the build up, maybe a scene or two in the show that is a continuation of this larger arc that goes through. Really, I love that kind of story writing. It's really good if you don't overdo it. Little hints.
Think Star Trek, not Star Trek, but Stargate did that quite a bit. Definitely whenever it came closer to the season finale, they normally had a build-up that was building on multiple episodes that you had to all see in order to get it all connected together for one big narrative. And I thought that was a strong point in that series.
Yeah, and something that was not done in previous versions of Doctor Who. I don't think there was any of that was really done, because it was just individual episodes from planet to planet to this time, jumping around.
Very episodic.
The difference was the companion. He would keep his companion with him during that time and eventually lose her, and then maybe get a new companion.
New doctor, yada, yada.
Coming in. So Thomas Hall said, Matt Smith, this must be your favorite. I think just look alone and said a lot about the character's quirkiness. For the new era, I would agree with you. Matt Smith probably was my favorite. I think he nailed with enthusiasm. I think he did a really good job on it. They're probably the runner up in this era. Would you agree with him that was probably this newer era? He would be your favorite?
I'd say yes. I wasn't too sure at him in the beginning because he seemed really, really wacky. But then I think he pulled it off well with balance between really good story writing and really good comedy.
Yeah.
Back and forth. And I think David Tennant was a little bit more wacky, and it was really starting to go towards that avenue, not taking
Wait. I think you're wrong. You're thinking about the David Tennant was the one you were talking about. Matt Smith is the one that came after.
Matt Smith's the one that was the silly one. Yes.
Okay. You said David Tennant.
David Tennant started going that route.
Okay.
That was still extremely serious, but started going that route. I'd say Matt really took it to another level of being not taking himself too terribly serious, but still having fun with it, but still having serious storylines within it. So I thought there was a good balance between the two with that character. And then...
So Matt Tennant, David... Go back to this here.
You need a cheat sheet?
Yes, I do.
You need a cheat
David
sheet.
Tennant, sorry. David Tennant is the one, not in the center, but he is the one just to the right. Just to the right there. And then Matt is just to the left. So those are the two guys. David would have been... You said your favorite then?
Would have been second favorite.
Second favorite? Okay.
Yeah.
And your first favorite for this?
Matt.
Really?
Yes.
I would have done the opposite. I would have been the other way around. Okay. Yeah, curious. If anybody else in the chat wants to chime in and say if they do have a favorite. Again, this is not a show that everybody has watched, anybody has experience with, but those who have, usually you pick up on somebody that does. What made this time special during the reboot was its balance of honoring the longtime fans while being completely approachable for newcomers. So you would be a newcomer there, right?
I would be a newcomer there. Yes, you would be part of the old fandom.
You can say previous fandom. You don't have to say old.
Ancient fandom.
Okay, we'll go with that. The Ninth Doctor, played by Christopher
fandom.
Eccleston, that was the guy that was we first talked about, brought a darker, worn-torn edge while still delivering hope and heroism. The show's blend of humor, heart, and high-stakes sci-fi earned it widespread acclaim. So it was doing good as a reboot.
Yep.
It was doing good. So thanks to smart writing, compelling characters, and a fresh tone, the reboot not only revived the franchise, but made Doctor Who cool again, like bow ties and fezzes, drawing a wider audience. So at this point, things start to go south. And
I'd say it was the wrap up of, let's see, the whole thing with Rose Tyler. Was it Rose Tyler? No, it was River Song.
Oh,
that was an interesting one because it was a non-chronological story.
Okay.
And we were seeing it from one perspective where there were characters experiencing it through another chronological perspective, which is very interesting to do.
Yes. So I would usually throw up a spoiler warning. However, I don't care. Going forward on this, if you haven't seen it, and we're talking about stuff that's going to be ending for it, if you really do want to experience this entire series since 1963 to 2025, shut this video off and go watch it. But I think pretty much everybody else...
I'd recommend stopping right after the whole River Song thing was completed.
Yes.
Or the 50th anniversary, either one.
Okay.
Whenever you see the old guy pop up, just quit.
And the old guy is...
the guy that was in the center of the
picture.
Yep.
And that is Peter Capelli. He was the 12th Doctor. And I think there might have been some good ones in there, but they really started going south. It's really kind of sketchy.
Yeah, it's kind of like, at that point, it's kind of like the enjoyment you get when you realize that the roller coaster has gone off the rails. You get like 5 seconds of, no!
I don't know if I would have quite described it like that, but that's probably not a bad analogy.
And to the pool of alligators, yes.
To the pool of alligators. So a shout out to Nerdrotic. He, I believe, has done what I would have done if I was going to be doing an analysis, a deeper analysis on this. And I'm going to give him a shout out. His video link for his video that came out recently is in the description. If you're a sci-fi Doctor Who buff and you really want to check out to see deeper than what we're going, he has a very good presentation explanation.
But if you stopped where I suggest you stop, I wouldn't necessarily waste time because
you don't have to
let it happen. Let it die happy.
Yes. Yeah. So they should have killed it after that, because as much as I would have liked to have seen the series continue, it was in poor hands. And man, Oh, how Doctor Who has fallen. Once a brilliant blend of science fiction, mystery, and moral philosophy, the series has been reduced to little more than a DEI PowerPoint presentation in space, complete with rainbow filters and shallow virtue signaling. Let's rewind to the glory days of the Doctor, when he was once a mysterious, almost professorial figure, a quiet observer of time and history, reluctant to interfere, but always ready to step up when moral clarity demanded it. As the show evolved, so did he into self-sacrificing hero during the Tennant and Smith eras, a man burdened by his past, a man who questioned himself and struggled with justice and often wept when he had to take a life. He didn't gloat, he didn't lecture, he didn't make you feel the weight of every decision because he felt it himself. Then came the pivot. Post Matt Smith, the writing shifted from storytelling to agenda pushing. The Doctor became less a time-traveling wanderer and more a preacher with a sonic screwdriver, sermonizing about gender identity, colonialism, evil capitalism, and toxic masculinity. Gone was the moral nuance, replaced by Twitter takes in Gallifrey and drag. The former Doctor, the former heroes of the original series, the original episode, became enemies of the new flamboyant Doctor. If the new Doctor would have met the Doctors back then, he would have vilified.
It would have been bad. They would have been the villains that he had no compassion for.
That's right. And in their defeat, he would have cheered, not mourned.
Not danced.
It's no surprise that the ratings tanked. Viewers didn't abandon the show abandoned them. The Doctor, once a conflicted guardian of time, became a mouthpiece for BBC and Disney's DEI checklist. And now the series finds itself in a pause, not a break, hopefully a mercy killing. Because in trying to please everyone on the left, Doctor Who forgot what made it timeless.
So bad is they've gone so far that the lefties don't even like it. They don't even want to watch the episodes.
That's true. I think
it's too cringe for them.
I think most of the people who were the original viewers or who have more conservative values left the series years ago. And so all that you have are those who would champion another cause. And they're the ones criticizing it.
Yes. And although I do think this does highlight a lot of interesting points, if we're at that point. I don't know if we're at that point yet. We can get some lessons out of this, actually.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So some of the interesting lessons that we can look for from this is Doctor Who during the good times, where you actually had a good character be Doctor Who. You saw someone who was merciful even to a fault, who would give enemies the opportunity, even ones who have done incredible harm, mutilating people, killing people. He would give them opportunity to repent, and he would give them forgiveness if they repented. And there were times that, no, they did not repent, and therefore he brought down the hammer. But the newer one, not so much. Because the newer one is a lot less merciful. In fact, there's hardly any mercy to be found.
He does have mercy, but it goes for the...
If you're a certain people group.
Yes. If there is an identity issue or a victimhood status or something like that, then you get the extra pass. But if you're somebody... There was a nemesis they had in the most recent series who was of a certain race and who was a podcaster who wanted to see families grow and wanted to see, believed in family units. That was wrong. That was evil. And
so much so that was portrayed as almost hellish in some ways.
Yeah.
Being a locked in hell escape.
Yes.
To be stuck in a loving family who cares for you, and you have a job that then you provide for your wife and kids. That was hell.
That was yep. and the man who had created or who proposed that, who wanted that, was the evil character.
Evil man, just wanting to have a family and
Yeah, so they flipped
actual values
190 on their whole thing. So why is that? Why the flip? Is this something that is driven by our culture, a certain segment of our culture, because it's definitely not the majority, or is it driving that culture? Is it in the driver's seat, or is it just been in the passenger seat, just going along?
In the passenger seat in the end.
Yes,
I think there's a lot going on.
So some comments here. Thomas Hall said Matt Smith, I think. Okay, sorry, that was a previous comment there. Unfortunately, I didn't grow up with the old Doctor Who. I remember plenty of people liked David Tennant. And when I was in college, is that David Tennant's the old Doctor Who? Okay. When I was in college, some guys were watching the official animated recreations of lost episodes. Oh, I don't know if I've seen those. That's pretty cool. And notice how all the old franchises died at the same time. Not a coincidence, I think, but I'm glad for it. Sure loved Star Wars, Trek, etc. Time for new stuff.
Yeah, that's really what we see. We see all of them dying fast, all in the same sort of time period, all with sort of the same person or mouse behind the driver's wheel.
I think the same mouse is a lot behind. Because
you got Star Trek. Well, Star Trek, no. Star Wars, yes. Doctor Who, yes.
Right.
The mouse bought that. And a lot of what the mouse touches, definitely all the remakes, How to Train Your Dragon, seem to be going down that avenue all the same.
Yep.
They're all dying.
That's why you need to get new, good Christian stuff here. Like this. It's good stuff. I'm telling you, man. Life-changing. No, not really. But it's still good stuff. Still good stories.
Good entertainment.
Good entertainment.
Without being preached to the entire time. Considering that was some of the complaints from the lefties.
Yeah.
They were saying it was too preachy.
It is true that you need to let as an author, I'm told, story that aren't the evil bad guy trying to rule the world or ruin it for everybody else. It can tend to make if you're writing a well-rounded, it's a good story with tension and other aspects that are there, dialogue, the whole 9 yards. We need more of that. We need more of that story. And it's easy to put it off and say we have more important things to deal with. Yeah, there's a lot of other things that are more important, but at least some of us should be trying to trailblaze that, because the enemy is going to fill in the gap and then start to drive the culture car off the cliff. And basically, when you remove Christian values, you're left with secular, i.e. pagan values. Mercy is seen as weakness by those without a strong moral foundation. Yeah, even if you look at those who claim to be tolerant, just start using a name that starts with J. You might find them not so tolerant.
Nope. They are very intolerant of tolerance.
Liberal arts died in the universities, so writers are coming out are just propagandists. I got a little bit of insight on that. So to get a story traditionally published by one of the big five, there are 5 big publishers now, and or even smaller presses, you need to go through a literary agent. Usually, most of them do not take unsolicited submissions. So to find a literary agent is very difficult. And most of them that I've found in searching for literary agents are English majors who cannot find a good job doing something else. And then they're asking for the mantra that has been over the last few years, might be changing recently, has been, I want to see strong female protagonists and diverse characters. So if you do those things and champion them, then they'll publish your book. If you're wondering why you're seeing that everywhere, it's because the gatekeepers are preventing anything else, by and large, from being published. And so that's the advantage of self-publishing and other routes, is it's kind of going around those gates.
Yeah.
So
Put a chick in it, make it gay.
Put a chicken and make it gay. Yes, that is so true. Pagans had better stories. Greeks were great playwrights, not Christian, of course, but you can find wisdom there too. Yeah. Yep, there's some of that. So, Eric, do you have any current projects that you want to talk about, share, anything that's coming up?
We got a couple things. I should be live tomorrow talking about if you can doubt and still be a Muslim. And then come Wednesday, so 2 streams right in a row, we're going to be looking at AI and how it's going to impact Dawa, because it already has. And it's the horrible stuff. But that doesn't stop them.
That would be interesting, because my experience with AI in terms of Islam is it has been trained a certain way to say that certain things about Islam is okay, certain things about Christianity are not, and you're looking to say, wait, you're not using the same measuring stick here on both.
Nope.
Because of the guidelines that have been put on
There's that, and then there's AI video, AI audio generation. There are a lot of other aspects to AI, not just the Chat GPT sort of stuff, although that has played a role in Dawa. There's a lot of other aspects that we need to look at and what might be coming down the pipe because of it.
Wow. Okay, so then on my end, I have coming up next week. Now we've moved, you guys know this now because you're here. We've moved from Tuesdays to Monday nights, same time. And next Monday night, we're going to be looking at the 30th anniversary of Braveheart. Yay, Braveheart, and all the memes and everything that came out of it, the impact that it's made on society from there. And how do we have heroes then? And what do our heroes look like now? That's a big question that we're going to be asking with Braveheart. Some of the virtues that we had then, we held up in high esteem, have become sins today. And some of the sins that were of back then, 30 years ago, may have become virtues today. How empires rise in iron boots and fall in silk slippers. So until then, I appreciate all the input that we've had on this, and especially for those of you who were former Doctor Who fans and have mourned with the rest of us as we see a good series go the way of the graveyard. And hopefully better things will come out with clearer visions of the future, unclouded by the philosophy of wokeism and DEI and so forth. So until then, keep a brave heart, and we'll see you.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.